Welcome back, everyone! This is the long-requested Part 2 of the Calamity Guide. If you haven't seen Part 1 already, check the description for the link, and it will also be linked at the end of the video. Also, if you haven't already and you like my stuff, consider subscribing. It's free and you can always change your mind. Also, I have a Discord, the link is in the description. Before we do get started with the guide, though, I want to cover a few mistakes I made in the previous part, as well as some things I'd like to add. Skip to the timestamp on screen to skip this part. Since this is the hard mode guide, I'll make it fast. The stat sheet I got at the start is not from the Calamity mod. The counter scarf lets you dodge both enemies and projectiles, and it also gives you invincibility frames after the fact. The Abyss has multiple levels, more or less centered around the 3 phases of the game. They get more difficult as you sink deeper, so don't push your luck. Also, Drayden's labs can be found around the whole world, not just in the large planetoid, so you might want to find one of those if you can. And that's about it that I missed. Not a lot, but I figured I should cover it to tie up the loose ends from the last part anyway, so let's get started with the actual video. So you just beat the wall of flesh. What do you do now? Well, primarily you should do the very vanilla thing of breaking altars and the mining ores to get some armor and then maybe some weapons, depending on the class. You know the drill. First tier, pickaxe, second tier, pickaxe, third tier, armor, and whatever else you need. Also, early hard mode is a time where the recipe browser really helps out. I always check what souls and bars make as well as any other materials I get along the way, like light and dark shards and essences, and I should probably go over those. Essences come in 3 varieties: Ilium, which you can get from ice enemies, Sunlight, which you get from the sky-based enemies, and Essences of Chaos, which you can get from Hell. All of them can be upgraded to the respective cores after Plantera, and also combined into cores of Calamity after defeating Plantera as well. They make a lot of necessary things in this part of the game and onward, so keep an eye on them and use the recipe browser as much as possible. Once you get these upgrades, it's time for the first hard mode boss, Cryogen. The spawner is made with ice, essences of Ilium, and souls of light and night, and the boss is kinda easy if you know what you're doing. Actually, saying that now, I realize that works with almost every boss, but I digress. Warmth potions are basically free damage and damage reduction. Make sure to not get stun locked under the boss because the projectiles that he rains down on you can make you frozen, and that's pretty hard to get out of. You should keep track of the little enemies he spawns because they can get really annoying, and that's about it. Also, it has the best background effect by far. I love how the way this looks. Once you kill the easiest boss in hard mode, a new ore spawns in the underground ice biome called Chronocore. You mine a bunch of this up and make them into bars to get your next tier of armor. Honestly, this tier is one of my favorites because of how pretty the weapons are, but the armor is also pretty good. And I think you only need it if you got adamantite and not titanium, because titanium's set bonus is just super OP. Then you should probably fight the first mech boss around this time as well. I usually do the destroyer, because area of effect and piercing damage carry this fight. Also, as long as you keep moving and kill the drones, it's not terribly hard to dodge the attacks. Unless you're using the Stormbow, it's a bit of an endurance fight. Not terribly hard, though. The main reason you'd want to kill it, though, is to get the souls and bars that get some decent gear for the next boss. Definitely check what you can make with either the guide or the recipe browser. I then try to kill the Aquatic Scourge, because since he's a worm boss, he's easy to exploit with piercing and AoE as well. Not to mention he drops a lot of cool and powerful weapons that'll help you with the next few bosses, including the Twins, which I suggest you fight next. The Twins are a bit more of a challenge in Revengeance mode, so I'll quickly give you a few tips for them. You should try and get them into second form at the same time, because the first one that goes into second form is invulnerable until the second one gets into second form. If that makes any sense. Once they're both in second form, focus one of them, preferably Retinazer, the red one. If you try and take them both out at once, they will both be at their third stage, and dealing with both of them at the same time in their third stage is the worst. So take out Retinazer first. They shoot homing lasers and charge around the screen at the same time, so try and go under them when they charge, and then juke out the lasers. You can do this just by spinning around. Once you have Spasmatism in his third phase, he shoots homing fireballs really fast and then charges really far, really fast. So try and go in a circle whilst keeping Spasmatism and the fireballs trailing you in the same direction. This makes it a lot easier to outrun the boss. You can see me doing it right here. After that, you should have them dead. Now you should probably do the Brimstone Elemental next, for the stage when she goes invincible and shoots the fireball shotgun thing, stay still, and time going up and down to dodge them. Also the laser phase, just keep moving. That's about it. Now, fun fact, Skeletron Prime used to be so hard, but I actually first tried him. Like, he's a lot easier now in Revengeance mode than I remember. You should just focus on the hands, and then focus on the head. For the laser hand and the head on its own, abuse the heck out of the patterns. It always fires in the same directions, like 8 cardinal directions at this point, so just try and stay right under the perfectly horizontal lasers, and just keep going up and down barely to dodge those lasers. You'll dodge the rest by default. It's really easy. If you just focus on closely dodging one laser, you will dodge the other 7. It does not matter. Also, keep moving. You should definitely keep moving. Now's the time to start making a lot of progress. After you use the recipe browser to make way better stuff using the hollowed bars and souls you get, gun for Plantera. You can get chlorophyte gear if you want, and I recommend doing so, but you don't need to. You want to circle the boss and focus on killing the tiny butter things as soon as possible. Also use piercing when there's a lot of them. Once you actually beat the boss, you should definitely get a lot of ectoplasm and use that and the living shards to make a lot of upgrades. You can also upgrade the essences to cores at this time, which can also help you make some cool stuff. And you should take out Calamity, the doppelganger, right around now, because it's pretty easy. You're technically supposed to fight it before Plantera, but I think it's a lot easier to do it after, and it doesn't really affect your progress, so I recommend doing it after Plantera. And yeah, advice for this, stay away from the brothers. Try and time your dodges to theirs, and pretty much ignore Calamity's, because, like, when the brothers are alive, because Calamity's lasers are pretty bad aimed. So as long as you just, you know, keep your distance, you'll be probably fine. Around this time, you should probably get a bunch of perennial ore and make some Reaver armor and any upgrades that you want or need. This tier is one of my favorites as well, because of how the armor set bonus makes spores go everywhere. And also, I just really like the color scheme. For Golem, which should be the next fight you do, on his 3rd phase, kill the head as soon as possible. Then focus on homing for the body, as the movements are very unpredictable. Then take the Pixel and gun it for the Abyss. Here you can get some materials from around the place for weapons, and also Scoria ore, the next tier of ore. With Scoria, you can make the last tier of armor for hard mode, unless you're going for something class specific, but this will carry you a long way. The next boss I recommend is Leviathan. Honestly, this fight's really easy if you do it after Golem. It doesn't really matter that the boss has slightly more health than usual when its hitbox dominates the half of your screen. So just go full on guns blazing and keep flying up and down. The rest is history. After that, I usually bang out Astrum Deus. He's really wacky and his attacks are pretty unpredictable. You should focus on out-damaging him and letting his projectiles circle you. That's about it. Next, you should fight Plaguebringer Goliath, but make sure to do this underground. If you do it on the surface jungle, he will enrage, and it will be very difficult to kill him. Once you do it underground, time your dashes to his dashes, and keep your distance when he fires the Plague Nukes. They're really easy to dodge, because they do not home. And take out Fishron. He's a cakewalk as long as you don't plow straight into the tornadoes, but his loot can really help in the future. He's not entirely necessary, but I do recommend it if you want some nice upgrades. Now we have Astrum Deus. This fight's actually really interesting. I haven't fought him since they updated him, but this was a lot of fun. I usually spawn him in and book it. If you can keep him charging in a straight line, you can abuse piercing to do maximum damage. But when he gets to half health, he splits into 2 worms and restores his HP. After he does this, it's really hard to keep him in a straight line, so I use something that's either area of effect or homing. In this one, I used the Razorblade Typhoon, but there are a lot of other great options out there. The cool thing about this, though, is that you only have to kill one of the 2 worms to win, the other despawns right after. Also, he drops all of the lunar fragments upon death, but you can't do anything with them without an agent manipulator. So... Oh yeah, in case you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm first trying Lunatic Cultist, as everybody does. Oh yeah, I haven't killed Ravager yet. Close fight. Last I do is Ravager, only because I had to for the guide. It's not essential for a playthrough, and I always take it out last anyway. So my tips is basically something to do a lot of damage, keep your distance. It's pretty easy otherwise. Then, after you take out all of the lunar pillars, you're actually pretty much done. You just have to kill the Moon Lord. This fight actually changed quite a bit in Revengeance, at least, so I'm going to talk about it. I definitely suggest using Discord or any teleportation method to teleport past his, death ray when he shoots it, because that does a lot of damage, and it's definitely worth dodging. His eyes function different in that mode. I usually actually like to focus one at a time. Also, keep your distance. That's always a good idea, but especially here. Homing helps a lot with doing that. After all is said and done, though, you won! Now you're ready for what I feel is the best part of Calamity mod, Post Moonlord. This took about a week and a half to make, and I'm excited to have it finally done. Can't wait to see you guys for part 3 soon. Anyways, have a good rest of your day. Have fun with what you now know, and I'll see you later. Adios.